call the meeting to order, and first order of business is roll call. So we will go through the roll. Jason Beebe.
Here.
Janet Hutchison. Janet, I thought I saw you here. Are you muted? I see your name tag, but I don't hear a present. Patricia Youngman.
I'm here.
Okay. Gail Merritt.
Here.
And Jeff Papke let us know that he would not be able to attend it tonight. Teresa Rumble, are you with us tonight? I see her contacting by audio. You muted, Teresa.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, thank you very much, Teresa. And city staff, who all is present?
You got Josh Smith, Plan Director.
Casey
Okay.
Kaiser, Casey Kaiser, Senior Planner.
Klann,
Thank
City
you. Thank you.
Smith.
Leader.
Liz.
Thank you, Liz.
Jared Reed, City Attorney.
Thank you. And Mr. Forrester, I see his smiling face up in the corner of this. So with that, please rise and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Forrester, are there any additions to the agenda?
We do have a couple of additions tonight, Mayor. The first change will be under council business. We do have a Crook County Health Department update. I believe Vicki Ryan will be presenting that. Also, we have a couple of steps also in council business. The consideration of November 24th council meeting. That is the week of Thanksgiving. And also, we have a couple of things, a couple changes down in the committee report, Steve, that I think you'll go over at that time.
Okay, fine, we will do that. All right. Well, with that, the consent agenda was circulated. Are there any questions or concerns about the agenda, which was the regular meeting brief from October 27th? Are there any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
This is Counselor Youngman. I will approve the consent agenda. Make a motion for that.
Thank you, Counselor Youngman. Is there a second?
This is Counselor Merritt, and I'll second it.
Thank you, Counselor Merritt. So we'll go through a roll call. Does anybody have any concerns first? Hearing none. All right. Counselor Beebe?
Aye.
Counselor Hutchison? Janet, we can't hear you. You're not muted, so I'm not sure what you may need to log off and come back on. In that, continuing on, wish I could read my writing. Counselor Merritt.
Aye.
Counselor Papke is not here. Counselor Rumble.
I'm going to abstain. I was not at that meeting.
Okay, thank you. Janet. And Patricia Youngman. Okay, and we'll go back to Janet. Are you back with us, Janet? I'm going to have to take an abstention from her because her voice is not coming through on the audio at this point. So, but it, and Mayor votes aye as well. So the measured vote, or the consent agenda passes. So, from under visitors appearances requests, as a reminder, all public comments received for this meeting have been posted on our website. And with that, let's move on to council business. And Vicki Ryan is here from the Crook County Health Department. Vicki, would you please give us an update?
Sure, happy to. Just start with the good news first. Saturday coming up, the 14th, we're having a drive-through flu vaccination clinic at the fairgrounds. The health department will be running the clinic. We're also partnering with Mosaic Medical, and they will be able to do a total of 40 rapid COVID-19 tests throughout that day. So if we get individuals coming through the drive-through that are symptomatic, we would send them straight over to Mosaic to be tested. And we will also, both of those items are free to the public. So we were able to get flu vaccine from the state as well as the testing kits from the state, so that we don't have to charge our public for that. And it's open to anyone who wants to come through. We will also be doing a personal protective equipment, or PPE, distribution. So we have cloth and disposable face coverings that we will be handing out to anyone that wants them. And as well, we have hand sanitizer, so 8-ounce and 16-ounce pump bottles of hand sanitizer gel. So we're hoping to get a good turnout. We have about, counting Mosaic, about 38 staff that will be there. We have a brand new tent that is a drive-through. And so this is just to continue to help support the community with the drive-through process, so that at any point we should ever get in a position where we're doing mass vaccinations, they'll already be familiar with this. We've done 2 drive-throughs in the past 2 years, and they were both very successful. On a less positive note, our cases are on the rise in Crook County. We actually had our top number today was 9 from yesterday. So the state reports the day after the cases actually come in from the lab. So yesterday we knew that we had 9 positive cases, positive and presumptive cases, that showed up on the state report today. So that puts us at a total of 12 already for the week. The week reporting is Sunday through Saturday. And with the new metrics for the pause list, there's 9 counties on the pause list around the state right now. And there's 1 on the watch list, but the new metric says that if you have 60 cases over a period of 2 weeks, it will put you on the pause list, and above 60, it would put you on the watch list, and above 60, you'd go on the pause list, which means that we would reverse some of the metrics of our opening. And I'm happy to send that out to all of you, the guidance, if you have not gotten that, or you can get it off the OHA website. We're seeing the trend in social gatherings, private and public social gatherings. We've not seen any what we call sporadic cases, which would be that community spread that we can't identify the origin of. We've been able to identify the origin of all of the cases that we've had in the county. Right now, we have a cumulative of 150 cases in Crook County, so we are no longer one of those counties that have the least number of cases, because our cases are on the rise. Currently, we are monitoring about 53 people, which means that those are the individuals who are classified as contacts to a positive or presumptive positive case. And we monitor them the same as we do with the positive cases, with phone calls every day, making sure that, you know, they have the supports that they need. And then we monitor how they're feeling, whether they become symptomatic. If they do, we make sure that they get tested. And then we go from there with each individual. We are still running at a full incident command structure at the health department, and our drive-through point of dispensing, or pod, will be run under the incident command structure as well, so that we can practice the full-scale exercise with that. If any of you are interested in receiving a weekly report of what our total cases are, I've compiled all of the numbers daily for us internally because there's so many moving parts and it's moving so fast that we have had a hard time keeping track of it. So I've taken on the task of putting together a list of numbers every single day. So each day, what the new total is, what it brings our cumulative to, what our active cases are. We have only 5 deaths in Crook County. We haven't had any additional deaths in the past week. So that's a good thing. But we do have 4 people in the hospital positive with COVID, 3 of them in the ICU right now. And the governor had a press conference today in regards to the hospital capacity across the state. And even St. Charles and Central Oregon is getting really worried about where that could go if our cases continue to rise, because at this point, all positive cases that need to be hospitalized goes to Bend. And so they are looking at potentially reversing their elective surgeries so that if they need to pull staff to help to support the COVID patients, they can do that. They haven't shut down the elective surgeries, but that's on the table for them at this point. They announced that today. Is there any questions?
Any questions from the council or the staff either?
Vicki, this is Josh. I have a quick question on when and where is that flu vaccine drive-through?
It's at the
I don't
fairgrounds.
see anything on the website.
On the health department website?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have
Where
to
it's
check tomorrow and
advertised.
make sure that they post that. I sent out the press release yesterday. Yesterday.
Nothing on the
Today's
calendar
only
either
Tuesday.
for the newsletter. So I don't know.
Okay.
I thought maybe that'd be helpful. But is it at the fairgrounds?
It is at the fairgrounds. Enter in through the main entrance, and then you'll be greeted. Your temperature will be taken, and you'll be made sure that you have your paperwork, your consent form for the flu vaccine, and then you'll be forwarded on to where the clinic actually is. And it's a drive-through. Everybody gets to just stay in their cars.
And
Yeah.
that's an all-day event.
It's 10 to 3.
Josh, this is Steve. We'll have that information up on our website and we'll get that out in an email. I
have some people that were asking about it before and I just couldn't find anything on the website.
Yeah, I think Lisa will get the press release and we'll get it on our media.
Great.
Tomorrow.
I'll make sure she gets that, Steve.
Thank you.
We've also been able to reach out to the Hispanic community and advertising on the Spanish radio station as well, so that we can reach all of our population, especially those non-English speaking that wouldn't normally see our regular news announcements. One of the other things that we're doing is we're putting together a public service announcement, a PSA, a video of businesses urging the public to follow the guidance and to help keep our businesses open. We're all tired of the government telling us what to do, and we're hearing that loud and clear. And so we've gotten a list of very prominent business people in town, people that everybody knows, and they're doing a video for us and just asking the community to wear the face coverings because our businesses are still experiencing a fairly high level of abuse from some of our community when they're asked to put on face coverings. And the businesses are just complying with the regulations. And so this is just a plea from them to the community to help keep our economy going. At any point in time, the governor could reverse the opening of the entire state, which would put us back to where we don't want to be. We want to keep our schools open and we want to keep our businesses open. So that's our positive messaging ongoing, is just to stay the course and be diligent, and let's do what we have to do to get through this so that our businesses can stay open. We can't afford to lose any more.
For sure. Are there any more questions? Vicki, you said that you had the hand sanitizer. Is that just for businesses or is that for the general public, or how is that passed out?
It's for anyone who comes through that wants it. If a business wants some PPE, they can contact me directly at the health department, and I'm happy to put together a package of face coverings, masks, and hand sanitizer for the local city businesses, the city departments. We have the no-touch thermometers, but your HR still has a supply of those, I believe. So Yeah, where it's open to the entire public. So we have a big stockpile of PPE that I've been able to gather through a grant and through what the state was giving us. And so we were able to pull together this distribution on Saturday so that we can make sure that we get it out there.
Great. Thank you, Vicki. Any other questions
You're
for Vicki?
welcome.
Chief, good to see you on tonight. Glad you could join us. Let's move on then. Under council business, we have a potential to skip a second meeting in November. But Jared Reed, would you like to take lead on that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As City Manager Forrester mentioned earlier, we do have a regular scheduled council meeting for November 24th. That is during the Thanksgiving week. Traditionally, council has not had the regular meeting during the Thanksgiving week, which is allowed in our code. However, if a regular meeting is to be canceled, a concurrence of a majority of council needs to approve that. So if the council wished to cancel the November 24th meeting, we would need to have a motion, second, and vote tonight regarding that.
So the question is to the council, would you like to have a second meeting in November, or would you like to skip it because it's during Thanksgiving week? And to my knowledge, there is nothing major to be addressed at that meeting. Is that correct, Steve? Mr. Forrester?
Yes, that is correct, Mayor.
Okay. The only item that we would have to address would have to do with the emergency that we address each month for the city during this COVID-19 period. So and we can address that tonight rather than the next second meeting, and that would be under resolution number 1463. So my question is to the council is, what are your thoughts about having a second council meeting? And if someone would like to make a motion to cancel that one, I would welcome it.
My thoughts are that if there isn't anything on the agenda, it would be nice for the city staff to have that week off.
Well, now, just a second. Are you giving the city staff the week off, or are you just saying that they would not be attending?
No, they would not be having the week off, but they would not have to attend a city council meeting on Tuesday night.
Thank you for that clarification.
Lisa, when you're doing the notes, let me talk to you about that in the morning.
Okay. Any other comments from the council on canceling the council meeting on the 24th of November?
This is Teresa. I would make a motion to cancel the council meeting for November 24th of 2020 due to the Thanksgiving holiday.
Thank you very much. Is there a second to that motion?
This is Patricia, and I'll second that.
Thank you, Patricia. Okay, so we have a motion from Councilor Rumble and a second from Councilor Youngman. Any other comments? Janet, can we hear you yet? I see your mute button went away, flashing off and on, but did not hear you speak. So I'm sure you're probably frustrated with computer systems like all of us get. So we have a motion with a second. Any comments? Okay, hearing none, let's go to a roll call vote. Mr. Beebe, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilor Hutchison, please attempt to vote. Still no voice. I'm going to have to take that as an abstention. Councilor Youngman?
Aye.
Councilor Merritt?
Aye.
And Councilor Rumble?
Aye.
And the mayor votes aye as well. So we will cancel the second meeting in November. We will have the same issue coming up in December because typically we don't have a second meeting in December, but let's deal with that come December.
Steve,
Yes.
this is Patricia. I've got Janet on the line, and she has she can vote. Here she is.
Oh.
Steve, I'll say aye.
Thank you, Councilor Hutchison. I appreciate your calling in and giving us that aye vote for the last motion. So we have an aye from Janet as well, from Councilor Hutchison. So with that, let's move on to staff reports and requests and move to the city manager's report. Mr. Forrester.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll start out tonight with an update from the Iron Horse Lodge project we spoke about last meeting. If you remember, we have the opportunity to work with United States Housing and Urban Development folks for approximately $5,000 a month of rental assistance for senior affordable housing at the Iron Horse Lodge in Prineville for 20 years. This week, the city received an official letter from HUD representatives Janaea Jackson, the Director of Asset Management and Multifamily Homes, the West Region, and Rick Lombardi, a resolution specialist for the HUD program. We will be responding to HUD, confirming our interest in going through the process to gain eligibility for those funds. And a reminder to the council that if we are successful, which I believe we will be, this program will help many people have a secure home for years to come. Very good news for our community. From the planning side, Director Josh Smith asked me to remind the council of the information specific to House Bill 2001 land use density that was included in last council meeting's council packet. So you have this information, and this information is for review and comments for a hearing we will have scheduled for the December 8th council meeting. So if you want to review those and don't have them, please contact myself or Lisa and we'll get those to you. If you have any questions, once you review those, please contact Josh with any of those questions. And just keep in mind that that's a fairly lengthy document, and we would rather not go through line item by line item at the December 8th meeting. So we can get those questions answered and have everybody understand what that's about. That would help Josh out in the council meeting on December 8th. And lastly tonight, from the railroad, General Manager Matt Wiederholt, our crack manager there that's done such a fabulous job with the railroad these past several years, is reporting that Envirotech, which is a tenant at the freight depot, actually bought some land from the city about 10 years ago, operates several employees there, has committed to 250 freight cars of magnesium chloride for their ODOT contract for the winter months to treat the roads with. So this will be a big benefit financially to the railroad operations. We did not expect this, and it will really help our numbers over the winter months, not only to close the year out, but also to make it through those winter months, which are typically pretty slow for rail freight traffic. And lastly, this is a little bit specific to Councilperson Gail Merritt. We had a very good visit at the Railroad Commission with Dustin, who is the managing partner for McCall Oil and the operation that's in Prineville that we've done so well at the railroad with. They're very community minded, and they did participate in the Crook County Fair sale program for the 4-H kids this year. And they have done that throughout Oregon for about 50 years. And he reported back that the ownership of McCall Oil and the management of McCall Oil have never experienced the support and thank you responses from the 4-H kids throughout the state as they did this year with their participation in the Crook County Fair auction. So that's a real compliment to our kids, our school, our 4-H programs, and the Crook County Fair and the Crook County Fair Board. So a nice compliment from people who participate in fairs throughout Oregon. That concludes my report tonight. Is there any questions? Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, I see Crestcom training update. Mr. Forrester, you want to lead that?
Yeah, I'd just like to take a quick minute and introduce Cale Pearson and Manuel Martinez. They're our coaches. They're our professional development coaches and mentors for the city. Cale and I have a relationship that goes back a couple of decades from the private sector world that he and I participated in for many years. And he transitioned into a professional coach for professional training for business people and leaders in a lot of different areas, not just in private sector, but public sector as well. And so we brought Cale in several years ago, and it's been just a fabulous experience for myself, for our team. I'm sure you'll get the opportunity to hear a little bit about that from the rest of the leadership team and the staff. But with that, I'd just like to turn it over to Cale and Manny to give you and the community an update on what we've been talking about, some of the things that we've included in our training, especially with what's gone on, this past 18 months. So with that, Cale and Manny, please provide us an update.
Great, I appreciate that. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Steve mentioned we've had a relationship for a couple decades, which is, as we grow older, harder, kind of funny, but it's been a great relationship. And specifically to the city and the leadership development program we've been doing has been started in 2017. And during that time, we've hit on a lot of different things, but I'll give you a little history on how we work in our program as well, so that we get a better flavor of it. So Crestcom's been around for over 30 years. And we're actually in all around the world. Millions of participants have graduated from our program. So it's tried, it's tested, and it's small businesses, governments, large corporations that we have been able to touch and develop leaders around the world. So we get a great flavor of not just local, but nationally and around the world. And our approach is that as adults, it takes time for us to change our attitudes, our behaviors, those sorts of things. And so it's really important that we develop a long-term curriculum. And that's really what we've done with the city since 2017. We continue to do that. I feel that the city of Prineville is really ahead of their time with the involvement that they do with their staff from a training level. They're looking out to the future of not only how do we grow the city, but how do we grow our people within our organization so that we can develop leaders across the organization. It's really remarkable to see, and that process of going over time allows them to learn these behaviors and new skills and really put them into practice on a daily basis. And then, just some topics that we've hit on during that time. The last probably about year and a half, the Jedi topic started to come up. And for those that don't know, it's justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. We've been hitting on that with break away from bias, multi-generational training, emotional intelligence. We have several other topics that we've done. And it's just amazing to see what the city has done all across from Steve, Forrester, and Eric has been a big part of that as well, and Darla. And recently we came to a 2-year agreement moving forward, so we have another 2 years on the books. This is going to be, take another step forward in our process of developing the team. So it's a huge commitment from the city, and we're really excited to be a part of that. And during that, we're going to be hitting on a lot of Jedi topics, more bias training, more gender, equality, diversion, or diversity and inclusion, so that we can continue to educate the staff and the city on the topics that are relevant in today's age. And then I have Manny Martinez that came in the last year. Manny, I'll let him give a little bit of his history and what he's been doing as well with the city. So Manny, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, and Mr. Mayor and fellow City Council members. I've met many of you. tonight, and just thank you again for the opportunity to be part of this this collaboration as we all grow together, as we all learn together as leaders here in your community. When Cale reached out to me several months ago and said, hey, you know, we've got this, you know, this great opportunity, I immediately jumped up and I thought, yes, this would be wonderful. And Cale touched a lot on the kind of the methodology of our process, but what I also want to bring to light is that, you know, every team's a little bit unique. Every situation is a little bit unique. And as we looked at our learning and our training, we wanted to make sure that we were also staying in touch with your needs and the needs of Prineville. So we reached out to Jared, talking to the advisory committee. We also stayed in touch with some of the citizen stakeholders to make sure that the plan moving forward addresses your needs, but also it has the bigger picture in mind. You know, are we addressing the needs and concerns of your community? Which is what we brought in the breakaway from bias. We did a most recent class was in conflict resolution techniques, and moving forward with the JEDI program that will go ahead and bring in probably part of that. You know, how do we bring all those different ideas and thoughts and concerns together in a program that's really, for lack of a better term, I guess it's just, you know, just hitting the right aspects in the right areas that we want to go ahead and touch on. So that's something that we are really interested in and looking forward into the future. Thank you.
Does the mayor, do you or the council have any questions of Cale or Manny or myself? And I actually, before I do that, I'd like to invite this leadership staff, Eric, Liz, Darla, anybody else that would like to make any comments, please do so at this time.
Well, this is Eric. I got to say, I really appreciate Cale and Manny. They're the right people to do this training for us. They really fit our culture. And as compared to the initial JEDI training, I think we're getting quite a bit more out of this team. So yeah, I'm very appreciative that we found these guys, and kudos to Steve and Darla for setting it up.
Other comments or questions from the staff, from the council or the staff, or comments from either? Or the people, Kyle and Manny, both of you, or Cale and Manny, both of you, I've heard a lot of positive comments from people with whom you have been working with the city. And so thank you for what you have done. And I'm looking forward to continuing this, especially with the JEDI project, because that's really important for our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Unless there are any other comments, I want to move on to Habitat Conservation Plan and Mr. Klann.
Yeah, so for the record, Eric Klann, city engineer. I thought I'd give a kind of a short history on the Habitat Conservation Plan. We have some new council members that might not be familiar with it, and then just provide an update as to where we're at. So if we think back almost 2 decades ago, in the early 2000s, there was a plan to reestablish steelhead and salmon, so we called those salmonids, up above Lake Billy Chinook. So Lake Billy Chinook was built in the 1960s. There was a passage facility on it. It didn't work, and essentially that species died out in our basin. And so early 2000s, the determination was made to start to reestablish that. PGE had a new license on that facility. They had to provide passage. Really, the city and the irrigation districts weren't too concerned about this, because at the time, the fish that were going to be reestablished in our basin were hatchery fish, and hatchery fish weren't protected. Well, in the midst of the reintroduction effort, a federal judge ruled that you couldn't disseminate between hatchery and native fish. And so all of a sudden, we had these endangered and threatened species being released right in our backyard. And I'm literally in our backyard. They'll park right across from City Hall and release these fish in Ochoco Creek. being that these are threatened fish, if we were to be found to take a fish, which take a fish means to harm or kill a fish, that's $10,000 penalty for each instance. And so the city of Prineville and the Deschutes Basin Board of Control, which is 8 local irrigation districts, decided to develop a habitat conservation plan. So what an habitat conservation plan, or HCP, means is that we do enough good projects so that we will ensure the survival of that species. But if we happen to harm a fish, along the way doing what we normally do, we'll be protected from that. So over the last 12 years, we've been developing this habitat conservation plan. And on October 2nd, we were finally able to release that for public comment. That started a 45-day process, and then any comments will be brought back to U.S. Fish and Wildlife. We'll work through those and then hopefully finalize this in a permit. This would last 30 years, so it would give the city and our local irrigation districts 30 years of protection from federal lawsuits. And really, it's a really good and proactive thing that we did to, ensure the survival of that species. That's very important, but to make sure that we'll be able to survive as well. Steve, you've been involved in a lot of these meetings. Do you have anything to add to that?
Well, Eric did a great job as usual. I think the bottom line, and Eric touched on the very beginning, this has been a tremendous lift for the city financially, for Eric's time, for my time, Mike Kasperger's time, and many others, as well as our local Ochoa Irrigation District, which, as many of you know, I serve as a board member on that as well. Eric's a patron, and some of our other folks in the city are patrons as well to the district. So this is part of the Endangered Species Act process, and it's just been a huge lift and a lot of fits and starts, a lot of arguing, a lot of trying to find compromise, and we're very close to the finish line on this. And to have that certainty for 30 years is really a big deal. And without a lot of hard work from a lot of really good people that are dedicated and love and cherish, our community here in Prineville and others here in the Deschutes Basin is really remarkable. We've got this to the finish line. So a huge effort, a huge investment. I don't think people understand how big of an investment it's been, and the reward's going to be, to Eric's point, 30 years of certainty. So great job by a lot of people.
Are there any questions? Thank you. Yes, that is a great project, and once that's in place, it's going to give us some certainty about safety as far as lawsuits. Let's move on then to Bowman Dam update, Mr. Forrester and Mr. Klann.
Well, I think I'm just going to introduce my partner, Eric Klann, on this one. But what we're talking about is the effort we've been making last several years to try to ensure the potential of development of hydropower on Bowman was realized. And kind of, if you roll back, not unlike the Habitat Conservation Plan investment, the city worked very, very hard for the Crooked River Act that was passed in 2014 and signed by President Obama. And this part of this law moved a boundary, the wild and scenic boundary, and gave access and possibility or potential to develop hydro at the bottom of Bowman Dam. So there's been several people that have looked at that through the years, and the city, the county, and the irrigation district have been taking a very serious look and build up to try to make that a reality. And with that, I'm going to stop and let my partner Eric kind of explain how that process has worked and where we've ended up.
Yeah, so, going back once again to probably 2008, 2009, we started looking at this project. 4 years of work on the legislation that was passed. And as Steve mentioned, part of it was that would allow us to put hydro on Bowman Dam. So environmentally, that's a really good project. Right now, when flows get above about 200 to 300 CFS, there's just too much energy in that water. And so that energy just flashes off into the water, and it essentially gives the fish the bends. So those gas bubbles will start to they dissolve, and then they start to come back into the fish's gills and bloodstream. So they'll get blisters on their gills. They'll die from that. And then also, this would be a good project to provide some revenue for the community, some revenue for Butchgoat Irrigation District to do some good projects. With that said, there's a OAR that requires us to provide passage over the dam or to do comparable improvements to the environment. So passage over that dam would be like $250 million. This is on a very small project that's not going to work. Excuse me. So we've been working with ODF&W to look at other options or other things we could do that would benefit the environment that would be similar. With that said, we got to the Fish Passage Committee this summer. We weren't able to negotiate an agreement that would work for them. We also then had a meeting a month ago with the commission of the ODF&W. And once again, we weren't able to get to an agreement. That's not that, at the end of the day, we could have got to agreement by providing a lot of water in stream. That would have really hurt the irrigators, and this project's not worth that. But one good thing that came out of this is two of the commissioners for ODF&W have really become engaged in this project. And so 2 weeks ago, they actually came to Prineville. They brought some of their staff, and we worked through this process. I have to say, the ODF&W staff are wonderful to work with when the commissioners are in the room. So that's been great. And what the commissioners proposed is very, very doable for us. The staff weren't too excited about that, but the commissioners were really starting to lay a heavy hand on them, telling them to figure out a way. So we're hopeful. It's all about developing those relationships and pushing these projects through. So who knows? I thought that project was, as Steve Forrester says, deader than fried chicken, but I think it might have a shot here. So we're excited, and we'll keep council up to speed with that project. Any questions?
Thank you. Yeah, any questions from the council or the staff? Anyone?
Thank you.
Sitting in on the meeting with the commissioners as well as with the committee that had the ability to waive the fish passage, the fish waiver committee, was very discouraging because there just was not a willingness on anyone's part to cooperate to reach a solution or reach an alternative. And it was very discouraging that that was the situation, the position we were placed in. So, all right, thank you. On our next agenda is committee reports. Do any of the council members have committee reports to present tonight?
This is Councillor Merritt, and you suggested that I give an update on Christmas in the Pines. And Christmas in the Pines is a lighted drive through the fairgrounds. We've been doing it since 2013. A small group of volunteers that just like to decorate the fairgrounds and give the community something to see. And this year we thought it was more important than ever to have something that people could stay in their cars and drive through the fairgrounds to see the lights. We've been working on it since October, and hopefully we'll have it all done by Thanksgiving, and we will open this Saturday after Thanksgiving and run until December 27th. Sadly, we will not have Santa Claus there for the children because the contact would be too close. but we will still have the live nativity scene on Saturday night there. So we are looking for volunteers to come help. Most of us on the committee are getting older and it's harder to pound T-post in the ground. So come down to the fairgrounds on Wednesday or Saturday if you'd like to help.
Gail, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Any questions for Gail on that? Okay, are there any other reports to be made? Okay, hearing none, I sent a letter to each of you, sent out a group email of some of my thoughts reaching the end of this, my period as mayor. And so because it was sent to individuals as opposed to being a part of the agenda when it was originally set out, I'm going to read this just for transparency. And I said, congratulations to Jason in his bid for mayor and to Gail Merritt and to Ray Law for their election success. I know it didn't require much campaigning. However, it did demonstrate a lack of community willingness to run for public office. Maybe we are doing such a great job, everyone is satisfied to leave the city in our hands. Well, we'll see. Prineville is changing. We need to be cognizant of that and lead the change in a positive direction rather than becoming reactionary to influences that cause change. Without a doubt, the data center industry caught us by surprise, yet has had a strong positive influence on our economy and our economic future. There are other changes taking place as a result of regional economics. We have more children in schools because we have more jobs. We have an increase in our senior population because of the quality of life here coupled with cost of living. I would like us, the City Council, to set aside time to meet and look at where we are in terms of demographics and some specific goals, at least directions, for how best to plan our future. For example, with a growing senior population, we need to evaluate what infrastructure or services are needed to help seniors live independently longer. Do we need more public transportation? Do we need to allow licensed golf carts on the streets so seniors can get around while still living in their homes? Do we need to attract development for a large retirement center for seniors to transition from independent living through assisted living and then to skilled living? Now, are there enough services already in present? And what about the auto industry? You know, it's now focused on electric cars as opposed to ICE or internal combustion engines. Are we prepared? Do we have appropriate charging stations here in town? While rural communities and unincorporated areas are the last to experience change in that respect, are we prepared for the steps we should be taking and taking now? Is it time to join forces with Parks and Rec to create a local community center with pool and other facilities? Are there other things we can do to improve the quality of life and stimulate local activity here in Prineville? We have all been to other towns and we've all seen things and said to ourselves, gee, wish we had that here in Prineville. Think about it. Let's plan a day, maybe a Saturday afternoon soon, and just have a conversation. One other point is to have council member training. Historically, there has been training by the League of Oregon Cities, which includes media training because of the complications and problems that the media has created for people who are maybe not as astute about policies as they should be. That has not been done well in the past few years. Also, we have some unique relationships in Prineville with other public and private entities. And I think it would be helpful to schedule another council basics training as well as an update for our local and regional relationship building. And I would like Lisa to do a doodle poll with the council to schedule a retreat, which will need to be virtual, of course. And I would like that to happen prior to our December 8th council meeting. So with that, I just like to open up the conversation. And Mr. Forrester, Steve Forrester, you had a couple of concerns and comments you wanted to make about that as well. So.
Yeah, Mayor, I think you caught the ones that I made specific in your report there. And what I was concerned about is making sure we had the opportunity to talk about those relationships that, Eric and I touched on those on our report here today, how important it is that the work that we're doing with agencies here in our community and like with ODF and W at the state level, as well as the federal level too. So I think having a perspective, giving the council, especially new council members, a perspective of how successful the city has been in those relationships, really important. So thank you for mentioning that.
Okay. Comments from the council?
This is Teresa. One of the things that I wanted to do from the time that I began serving on the city council was to get more people involved. One of the driving forces for me to become a counselor was the Oregon wild situation and the natural resources, and everybody wants to have a voice, and I wanted people to learn where they could voice their opinions, concerns, gratitude, and things like that. I don't know how we do this. I haven't been real pleased with the turnout that we've gotten from young people, older people, diverse people. But I really hope that the new council figures out a way to try to get more community involvement, and not just on the city council, but to just come to the meetings and know what's going on within their city government. I think that's really important.
Thank you, Teresa. Other comments? Would people be willing to have take a day or a couple of evenings or some combination to get together and have conversations about some topics to improve the livability of Prineville?
And Mayor, this is Councilor Beebe. I replied all to the email, so the rest of the councilors will be able to see my comments, but just kind of follow up. Yes, I think it'd be a good idea. I know I've had conversations with you, but I haven't had conversations with the rest of the council. So I think it'd be really good for us to sit down, talk about those things. You brought to light some good, some ideas, some topics that I hadn't really thought about. And so I'm excited about it. I hope we can all do it sometime and set something up.
Okay, I have a concern not about what you're saying, but about the process. And I should have made a note on my email not to have a circular conversation within the council that is confidential and quiet from the public. So whatever you sent, I want to make part of the record for tonight so that it will become public. So I appreciate what you're saying, Jason. I just want to make sure that we don't do things that are violations of ethics. So I'll make that part of our meeting record tonight.
So I guess my question would be, or my assumption would be, that we could invite Ray Law to this meeting as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Lisa will get together an invite, hopefully, because if the council is going to be meeting, we're going to need to notice it.
Yeah, and Steve, what we talked about, Mayor Steve, what we talked about is, let's try to get something that we can all talk about at the December 8th meeting. I think unless I misunderstood what we talked about this afternoon, I think I might have just heard you say a few minutes ago you want to have this meeting before the December 8th council meeting.
I'm open to any opportunity that we can have. I don't care. It's not, I'd like to do whatever the council would like to do, you know, however they want to address this, but I would like to have some of these items brought out on the table and just have a conversation about what do we want to do, or do we have any ideas that we can change direction or spiff up the direction that we're working to improve quality of life in the community. You know, I do have some real concerns about the explosion of electric vehicles, and yet we have only one charging station up at the grade school for electric vehicles coming into town. So, you know, what do we need to do about some of those things? So, and if we do it at the next council meeting, you know, first December 8th, that's fine too. So, what would the council like? Everybody's quiet.
Well, this is Eric. I'm not council, but I'll jump in. I guess I've been bugging Mr. Forrester about this for a while. I was thinking, Mayor Uffelman, this would be something we would do in the new year. But from my point of view, I would just like to understand where the council wants to go. You know, we've been very successful with the data centers. I presume that's something that we want to continue with, or whatever industry. But as staff, I need to know that, you know, council has my back if we're out there working and negotiating, doing these big things. And that's where I thought it would be really nice to just take our time. You know, this isn't a half-hour meeting. This is some time to provide some background on, you know, where we've been, how we've got here, you know, commitments that are made, the relationships that were developed, and just, you know, let the council go around the room and explain what's important to them, what they would like to see us work on as we move forward. You know, and I was just thinking we would do that kind of as an onboarding for our new council member, and hopefully try to get as much engagement from the other council members as possible.
Okay.
And then I'm just to tag on with Eric, and to his point, Eric and I have had a lot of conversations about this, but the reason that I think we need to give this some thought is we might want to have a facilitator help pull that strategic piece out, those strategic pieces rather out, and organize them. So I think we have some work to do in preparation for a strategic planning session or modified strategic planning, whatever you want to call it. So I think it's certainly doable. We just need to get going and get that put together quickly if we want to do it before the December 8th meeting, and we can do that. So I just want to say there's some work to do that I'd like to, you know, I could facilitate, Eric could facilitate, but I think we need to have some thought process about the process of going through a prioritization or a strategic prioritization of what the vision is. You know, we have some work we've already done. Let's take a look at it and update those visions.
This is Teresa. I tend to agree with Eric as much as I always have a lot to say and I want to butt my nose in everywhere I am. This would be a good opportunity after the first of the year when the new counselor is put in on the council. You know, again, I'll be more than willing to join in this conversation. I just don't know. I don't have the backup since I'm not going to be on the council any longer after December 31st.
Okay. Teresa, thank you for your comments. I know Jeff Papke, Councilor Papke, had commented that he would like to see an outside facilitator participate in this conversation as well. So we'll work on putting some things together and come back to the council with it. Unless there are other comments, we'll move on. There are no ordinances for tonight, and because this is the only meeting we will be having in the month of November, we have resolution number 1463 authorization to efficiently minimize or mitigate the effects of COVID-19. So with that, Mr. Reed, would you lead us through that piece again?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mayor, this was put on the agenda tonight based on the anticipation that council may decide to cancel the November 24th meeting. As council is aware, we renew our emergency declaration every 30 days. And so this is going to allow the declaration to remain in effect until the end of the year. As Ms. Ryan reported earlier, it certainly appears as if COVID will unfortunately be with us for some time, and it'll be with us moving into 2021. So this is going to allow the city to have the resources necessary to do all it can to combat the virus for its citizens.
Are there any questions or concerns about resolution number 1463? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve resolution number 1463? A resolution authorization to efficiently minimize or mitigate the effects of COVID-19.
This is Counselor Beebe. I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 1463.
Thank you, Councilor Beebe. Is there a second?
This is Counselor Youngman. I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilor Youngman. Any questions or concerns? Hearing none, we'll go through a roll call vote. Councilor Beebe, how say you?
Aye.
Councilor Hutchison. I'm going to have you call through Councilor Youngman's phone and get on and connect that way. Councilor Youngman.
Aye.
How do you? Thank you. Councilor Merritt. You muted, Jill.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. Jeff is not present, and Councilor Rumble. How do you vote?
Aye.
And Mayor votes aye also. Was that Janet that I just heard?
Yep, it's Janet. She's on the line.
Okay, and you vote your vote? And Janet votes aye as well, and the mayor votes aye as well. So we are unanimous of those present.
Gotcha.
Thank you. And that completes our agenda. So I will request a motion to adjourn.
This is Teresa. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second?
This is Counselor Youngman. I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilor Youngman. And so I'm just going to ask where all in favor say aye.
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 Is there any opposition? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you.